Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. Today we're taking a look at the Painted Wastelands. This is a new setting/adventure for Old School Essentials created by Tim Malloy and Chris Willett. At its core, the Painted Wastelands is a hex crawl. It's an entirely new plane of existence, a very dreamlike scape that you can be transported to and have adventures throughout. It seems like a great fit for groups that like things very weird, very psychedelic, and enjoy some very distinctive art. The book has 100 new monsters to torment would-be heroes, 35 detailed hexes to complete, with 4 dungeons rich with ancient treasures and merch from obscure alien holo shows. It also includes 2 new classes, along with lots of new spells. Before we take a look inside, though, I should point out that I am doing a giveaway of the Painted Wastelands this month. The winner will win not only a copy of the book, but a whole bunch of supplemental material as well, including the player's handbook, a zine, we got decks of tarot cards that can be used in-universe, there's some stickers, postcards, all sorts of awesome stuff. All you have to do to be in the running for this giveaway is to make sure you are subscribed to the Questing Beast newsletter, which is completely free. Head down to the description below, head over to the newsletter and put in your email, and you are good to go. Not only will you be in the running for this giveaway and all future giveaways, you'll also get access to my monthly newsletter, one of the most popular newsletters on RPGs on the internet. All right, so what do we get inside the Painted Wastelands? Unfortunately, the end pages are not being used. I would have liked to see them used for things that you need to reference a lot, maybe just the hex crawl or other procedures that come up frequently. Most of the book is taken up by this huge hex crawl. There's plenty of locations to explore, and then you have a bestiary and some extra classes, tons of spells and monsters. One of the most fun features of the book is the artwork, which has this very otherworldly kind of psychedelic rock feel to it. Definitely a mix of fantasy and science fiction. There's some modern day anachronisms thrown in there too. Honestly, the thing that this book felt the most like is Ultraviolet Grasslands. That's this huge adventure book that I have reviewed in the past, where also it has that kind of prog rock psychedelic feel to it, featuring lots of amazing artwork and writing by Luca Reyes. If this is a book that you really enjoyed, I think you'll probably like The Painted Wastelands as well. The universe that this takes place in is the lower ethereal hierarchy. The Painted Wastelands is just one section of that. And the question is, how did you get here? Maybe you drank fungal wine with a stranger in the tavern last night. It's all a blur, but now you find yourself in the Painted Wastelands. Maybe you ate a very weird mushroom, or after years of mastering lucid dreaming and esoteric meditation, you finally reach the lower ethereal, although this is not exactly the place you wanted to be. There is a kind of language system here called Dream Tongue, and neophytes in it, which are first or second level characters, have a 40% chance to understand every other word spoken or read. Now, I'm not totally sure whether you're supposed to roll that before anyone talks, or maybe when your character is created. It's a little bit unclear. I would probably just use the guidelines down here. The neophyte has the diction of a toddler, and then initiates, which are slightly higher level characters, they have a syntax that is simple and childlike. It's like trying to speak to a child about theoretical metaphysics, and adept and dreamers are more fluent in it. Rather than rolling all the time, I think the way that I would run this is that early level characters can only pick up a word here and there of what other people are saying, so there's more that you have to piece together as you're exploring the world, and then this clears up more as you level up. Now, this is a very dreamlike location, which means that traveling around the hex crawl isn't as simple as it would be in other settings. You have a stat called Lucidity, which represents your control over the dreamlands. To leave a location, the party must nominate a navigator to roll 1d20 plus int, applying relevant aid and travel modifiers, which are down here. The better you roll, the more you're able to control your movement and get hopefully where you want to go. But if you roll low, you might be stuck where you are, at least for this turn, or you might be thrown through the celestial firmament and appear somewhere else in the Painted Wastelands. Your party travels in a random direction, D3 locations, over the course of 1d6 hours. This can make things pretty chaotic until you get more control of this ability. Here is our hex crawl of the Painted Wastelands. You start in the center, and you can explore in any direction you want. You got a big list of random encounters you might run into as you travel. Could be anything from a shifty gutter wizard, or an Onironaut, or a pickled toad, or pillar saints. The main factions to watch out for is the Sect of the Bleeding Eye, a brand new cult that's risen to power recently. They're a social parasite that wants to convert as many people as possible to their faith by anointing them with psychoactive blood. There's the Void Cult, which wants to annihilate all of reality and turn things back into a blissful void, and of course that means killing you. And there's also the Oniri tribespeople. Some lonely drifters come out of a region called the Glitchlands that bordered on the Painted Wastelands. They are the native people of this area. There's also some lesser factions like the Onironauts, Necromancers, Lunar Librarians, and so forth. Ectoplasm is a big theme all throughout this adventure, and there's plenty of ways that you can smoke it, along with some weird side effects. There is plenty of random tables all throughout this book, so there's lots of weird effects and weird items and ways that locations can change. Maybe one weird side effect is that you're now secretly a robot. You don't know this for a fact yet. Your blood is replaced with oil and your nerves replaced with copper wires. So that's going to be a weird discovery the next time that you're wounded. The main currency of this world is not gold or silver, which is basically worthless, but ectoplasm, which has been converted into these paper pieces, which can be burned and smoked. Most of the XP that you're going to get from exploring is going to come from getting treasure, but generally this is going to be valuable merchandise and rare artifacts. You can also gain XP per ecto spent buying merch, paying to smoke ectoplasm, or eating the unique cuisine of the Painted Wastelands. The starting hex is right in the middle of the map, just called Start Here. You are slammed into the desert from whatever dimension that you're from, and you find yourself in the Painted Wastelands. Immediately, you see that there is an albino bat demon attempting to attack this living skull, which is asking for aid. This is a great way to throw you right into a fight and to get you invested in helping out this weird little guy, who, if you save him, quickly becomes your ally and your guide to the Painted Wastelands. I think this is a really great way to start off an adventure. I like having a person who is in your party, who is somewhat familiar with the environment, who can give you advice and backstory and clues as you go along, because I think giving information to your players is really important if you're going to have a very open-ended style adventure. They need to know enough about this world that they can make intelligent choices about which direction that they're going to go in, what things are more dangerous than other things, and so forth. Now, the actual contents of the different hexes vary quite a bit. Sometimes you just find, like in this one, you find the dead body of a wizard, and he has a magic mirror, and if you look into it, then these crazy eyeballs come flying out of it to attack you. Other locations are much more elaborate, where there's whole little mini dungeons or mini adventures to go through. Some locations are a lot more social, like this one where you meet the Oniri tribespeople. You can roll a reaction with them to see how much they like you, and that's going to depend on some of the things that you've done elsewhere in the Painted Wastelands. You can listen to their stories to get more of a sense about the back history of this world. And of course, you can do trades with them as well. There's a lot of fun, weird items that you can collect. Like 4 cans of Wizard Gulp. They're kept in an enchanted cooler and they're ice cold. They might be raspberry lemon with chunks or watermelon ginseng nova. You might encounter a little mini dungeon, like the Dungeon on the Edge of Eternity, each room of which is its own little weird encounter, including the concert at the end of the world going on in this one. The band Squelching Mollusk is playing some nightmare metal, and they are a cover band of a different band called Silent Monk. Unfortunately, they're not very good. You can push your way through their mosh pit, you can try and buy merch at their merch table, and get all the way to this throne room and find some secret treasure. Most of the mini dungeons and adventures in this book are not super complex. They're definitely not laid out in the way that an OSE dungeon typically would be. Each of the rooms is like just an encounter zone. You wander in there and then there's just a weird thing that you kind of deal with. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's just strange. So for people who like the more careful, tactical, room-by-room procedure in old school D&D, they might not like this as much. But if the way you play D&D is more like, let's go into the next room and just see what weird thing is going on in there, and then we'll figure out how we're going to interact with it, then this is probably right up your alley. Like in this area, there's an endless stream of unsettling creatures of all shapes and sizes, making their way from the left door to the right. This procession completely bars the way. So how are you going to push through these guys? How are you going to talk to them? That is the fun of the encounter. Other times they're just a huge monster that you can fight, like the Unreality Elemental. And if you beat this guy, you can go through all of his loot, and his loot is mostly just piles of dead sorcerers who he has killed in the past. And as you find their bodies, you can go through their pockets and look for their weird items. Like this wizard, the Giant Head has a cassette and a cassette player, and if you play the cassette, it works like a scroll and fires lightning bolts out of the speakers. Some of the room descriptions are a bit long. They're not written in the kind of OSE bullet point style, but whether you like that or not is really up to you. I find them to be quite well written and very straightforward. There's not a lot of extraneous text in there that you have to wade through. It does get to the point as to how each room works pretty quickly. This really is the kind of setting for people who just want to wander around and see what's in the next hex, make allies, find ways to turn one monster in one hex against enemies in another hex, find strange magical artifacts and combine them with others, and just goof around and explore the setting. One thing that I would like is I would like more of the artifacts to have weird effects other than doing damage or modifying stats on your character sheet. There is some that I think are pretty good that have like environmental effects, like causing salty rain to fall around you or affecting how one faction treats you. Things like that are really interesting, but a lot of it is very stat-based, and I find that a bit less creative. Here's another adventure you can run into, the Mausoleum of the Sky Ghouls, and as you can see over here, it's really more scene-based than it is location-based, and it is quite linear. You really are expected to go from scene 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, and then you're done. I find that to be a kind of an unfortunate choice. It is weird to have this very open-ended hex crawl that you are traveling around, but then inside the hexes you have these very linear little mini episodes. That's not to say that there is only one way this adventure can turn out. There's actually lots of different possible conclusions to this dungeon based on the player's choices. I just would have liked to see a little bit more freedom given to the players in how they go about exploring it. The overall impression I get is that this is really for groups that just like seeing the scenery, right? They want to go through these adventures, these fairly linear ones, and see what's in the next room. They want to have these experiences that have been set up for them by the game writers. Overall, there just seems to be less of a focus on planning and scheming than you might see in an adventure like Dolmenwood, for example. This is shown even in the way that traveling from hex to hex, you have to roll a die, and that can often determine where you end up. You often have not a lot of control over that. It's all about making do with the weird situation and the weird encounters that you are thrust into, and figuring out how you're going to survive or exploit it given the items and the friends that you've picked up along the way. But there are plenty of strange locations all throughout here to explore, lots of really great art, lots of weird effects, weird monsters, machines, peoples, cities. So there's plenty of material that you could explore for quite a long time. Part 3 is the Bestiary and has lots of new monsters. Most of them are not illustrated because oftentimes the illustrations for these are in the actual hexes over here because they're often repeated, but this is all organized so that you can find the stats of different monsters pretty quickly. And I love how unusual they are. You have things like a swarm of dismembered limbs, cast off zombified limbs. Necromancers can be very choosy when deciding which limbs to use for their undead creations. They flop around in swarms, drawn to each other's mindless necromantic energy. And I love how they're not particularly dangerous. They automatically hit anyone within the swarm area, but they don't do damage. Instead, you just trip and fall prone. So they'd be much more dangerous when used in conjunction with other monsters. Maybe you're fighting some horrible beast, but all of these arms and legs are flopping around on the ground, and they keep knocking you over until you manage to kill them all. There's lots of cool magical books that you can find, and there's different effects depending on the kind of magic user that you are. Like if you find the Enchiridion Occulta and you're an arcane spellcaster, you could use it to study it and get commune with Void Entity. But if you're a divine spellcaster and you try and read it, you save versus spells and take 3d6 damage. Whereas the Conspiracy Against the Dead Dreamer can instantly kill necromancers, it can make lawful and chaotic characters neutral, and it gives some really powerful stuff to divine casters, including giving them an entire experience level. I love if you carry these magic books around for too long, the Mandrill Librarian can show up. He's a representative of the Lunar Library on the far side of the moon, and he will just let you know that one of the magic books you have is overdue and needs to be returned right now. Then you have to roll on this table to see how late it is. Maybe it's 832 years late, you owe a 16,000 ecto fee, or a spider lays eggs in your ear every night. Now, of course, you could decide to just kill him and take one of the magic tomes that he has with him, but if you do that, then the Lunar Library will send 1d10 plus 2 librarians to kill you and return all of the stolen books. So now you're fighting these small armies of Mandrill librarians. In the magic items section, we have a bunch of weird stuff, including the deck of strange things, which you can get as an actual product. Each of these has a ritual you can perform, which can give you new special abilities. Like if you perform the ritual with the Cirrus, then this allows you to go back in time up to 1d8 days. You lose all possessions you gained during that time, but keep your XP and memories. They have just taken the place of their alternate selves in a very similar alternate universe. The game continues as normal. So this could be very powerful if you've made a terrible mistake and you need to go back in time to rectify things. Or performing this ritual for the Dreaming Sun brings about this magical new sun that only the caster can see. The sun is always in the sky, both day and night, and allows you to see in darkness, but you slowly become more and more terrified and paranoid. What does this new sun mean? Why can't anyone else see it? What does it want? At the back, there are 2 new character classes, including the Cat, because of course you can be a cat in the Dreamlands, and the Oniromancer, a new magic-using class that has tons of new spells for you to loot, even if you're not running games within this setting. And of course, many of these are dream-themed, like getting a dream servitor or a dream steed. Maybe you gain some precognition, or you're able to construct a mind palace. At really high levels, you can do things like conjure greater dream worms, which are these massive Arrakis-like worms that, of course, you can even ride around on. So that's the Painted Wastelands. Definitely not going to be a setting for everybody because it is very strange and zany and out there. It could work well as a palate cleanser, a little excursion from your main setting where your characters eat some weird mushrooms and then they find themselves in this other plane and have to find a way to get back again. I think the art is great. The writing is very clear and easy to follow, although I think some of the mini adventures, like I mentioned, are a little too linear. But if you enjoy unexpected, out-of-the-box encounters and locations, where you have to very quickly figure out what even is this weird situation that I'm in and how am I going to get out of it, then this could be just the adventure for you. As usual, I will put links in the description below for where you can pick this up in print or PDF form. And remember to subscribe to the Questing Beast newsletter if you want to be in the running to win this, along with all of the extra Painted Wasteland supplemental material. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.